Hello, my name is Eric McGinty, and this is the Mary Hall House. It has been the home for many different people since it was first built in 1883. This is the story of the last 9 residents.
When I first moved in there with Ian, I was more than happy to move in because I like the big kitchen area. I had just moved from a place with a little itty-bitty rank kitchen, and I just liked to be able to move around and cook, because cooking is like alchemy for me. When I start, I can't stop.
For a while, I didn't think I ever wanted to move from here because I guess the people in this house are pretty much the people I'm closest to, the people in Montevallo. But it's just been kind of fun. But I do realize how shitty this house is now.
Well, when I first moved in, I thought it was really great because I really liked all the people that lived in there, and it's kind of cool just having everybody around. And the more I live there, the house is pretty beat.
I really hate living here. It's neat, but it's hell.
I don't like living here either.
To be honest, I've always wanted to live in this house. I mean, when I first came to Montevallo, I remember driving past this house and thinking, I want to live in this house. And the first place I wanted to live in was, look down here. I always thought it would be like living like a rabbit because it's basically underground. But they told me there was no way anybody could live there, that it was totally just a disaster area because water comes pouring through there and it stinks and there's raw sewage and stuff like that. But I told them, I want to live there at whatever cost. I'll pay whatever rent you want me to. And then a whole year went around and I ended up moving in upstairs, and I kept just sitting there by myself and going, I can't believe I'm actually living in the place I've always wanted to live in. Now this.
What Paul means by "now this" is that the tenants heard a rumor that the house was to be demolished, and they were to be evicted.
Though you have no money, come buy grain and eat. Otherwise, you will be kicked out of your house. So says Mary Hall.
This came as somewhat of a shock to the residents, since Mary Hall, who was their landlady, never directly informed them of this. Mary Hall is, well, maybe I'll let them tell you.
Mary Hall!
It just can't be expressed. What a horrible person she is.
I mean, if she does come around, it's like to leave little notes about this or that, or
to check your mail.
or to move your furniture off of the porch.
Mary Hall is... Well, let's not talk about that.
Certainly she never came by to fix things. Once in a blue moon, maybe. And they never really got fixed.
Want to hear about my leaky faucets?
No.
This faucet does not currently leak. This is because the Halls came in and fixed it after 2.5 months of me bitching about it. However, you couldn't use hot water without going underneath there to turn the hot water on down there if you wanted to do your dishes. And it ran about like that for 2 months. You can see that this is leaking. It was fixed a week ago. We put these handles on here because there were no handles on the bathtub. Well, there was one, but you had to move it back and forth. But it was worse. These are also leaking again. They were fixed a week ago. This is as much as you can get them off. But it was worse. It doesn't close, and you have to stick your finger down there and go poke so you can flush it again later. This is part of the joy of living in the Hall house, whatever you want to call this place.
This is the basement. Come look, you might meet Ratso. The wonderful thing about this basement is that it's been fixed. Meaning, over here, this little patch of concrete that you see on the floor, I'm not going to walk in here, but that little patch of concrete is a seal that they put over a hole that happened to be in my sewer pipe. This is what the basement used to look like. As you can see, there is a big pile of raw sewage all over the floor. All leaking out around that hole. You can see water running all through it. But now, it's clean. So to speak, more or less.
Ty had moved out by the time this documentary was started, yet he still carries fond memories of the place.
Was and still is a dump. It's amazing. You know, we didn't pay much rent, so I didn't really expect a whole lot, but at the same time, little niceties like when the pipes are clogged up and according to the lease agreement, you're not allowed to use any type of drain cleaner or anything like that. They could come out and fix something, but they didn't, and we ended up having to take all of the sink water, it'd fill up in a bucket, and we'd have to go pour it out, bring it back, and let it fill up again and pour it out. The kitchen floor, you could jump up and down on it, and you could, all the fridge and everything would lean in when you jumped in. It was crazy. I mean, we were afraid we were going to fall in one day.
The bathroom to the downstairs apartment is pretty awful because we always thought the toilet was just going to sink right through the floor because the floor was really weak there. I thought the same thing might happen to the shower, too.
The bathroom is off limits.
But when Ian used to live there, he would always complain to her about that and say, you know, Mary, I think you really should do something about the floor. It's going to fall through. And she said, well, it's all supported with these big beams. You know, she'd talk about it's well supported with these boards. And we were like, you know, Mary, that's going to rot through one day. And I don't know, now I think about it, she just probably obviously had the intention of, you know, well, it's going to be bulldozed anyway, but she, you know, of course she'd never say that to us.
Our light switch. You like it?
And how they found out they were being evicted is a story within itself.
Well, we certainly have not been told by our landlady.
I told everybody.
She told everybody.
I talked to April, and Mary just happened to mention it to April, and so I just happened to talk to April one day, and she just happened to mention it to me, so that's it.
April just happens to be the girl that lives next door.
The girl downstairs, I think her name is April, went to Mary Hall to pay the last of her rent for this month, I believe, and Mary Hall told her, don't
Casually
bother.
mentioned.
Yeah, just casually mentioned, don't bother paying any more rent.
And we were accustomed to not hearing things from Mary herself, so we figured, all right, you know, maybe this is true. Everybody scrambled to get new places, and then that was when Mary came by and started pitching a fuss with Elizabeth and I, and she said, no, that wasn't true. This house isn't being bulldozed. It had been sold on condition for a rezoning kind of thing. You know, they weren't even sure if it was in the hands of anyone else yet. So the information from next door here was a bit twisted out of shape. As it stood, though, we were all panicking and getting new places. And
The ball was already rolling. We already found places, and we were gone.
Mary got into an uproar. We got into an uproar back at her. I told her we're all going to get out of here anyway, and so then I guess just as kind of a lashing out at us, she sent us all eviction notices, except for Paul.
I don't know, obviously she favored me for some reason or another. I wrote a song about it later, because I used to have all these whirly gigs. I don't know, you've seen them in the garden. But, I bought them and I thought they were pretty, so I put them in the front yard, and they're real big and kind of showy, and people would always pass the yard and look at them and point. But she obviously didn't like them at all. Mary had come by and left a note that for some reason or other the insurance on the house had been canceled, and I mean, you can kind of see why. I just told you about the bathroom floor and just the whole way the house looks. And she didn't even think about the condition of the house. She thought it might be because of the whirligigs, of all things.
Whirligigs are not the only items that go in the yard. Accompanying them were a garden, a homemade grill, and various and sundry other items. The upstairs hallway also harbored an art gallery of sorts, although dimly lit and somewhat spooky.
This thing's still here, and I was hoping to get it out of here. I was wanting to lay claim to this thing, but it would take about 6 people to carry it. So.
The house, however, was not just home to the people who paid rent, but also to a variety of stray pets, ranging from dogs to squirrels to fleas to something in the basement named Ratso.
We do have a friend named Ratso who comes out of the bathroom every once in a while.
I saw him once.
I've seen him once. I've heard him scampering around quite a bit. I think the dogs they see that little concrete talisman out there and figure
This is their place of worship.
This is their place. The dog shrine. Of course, it helps that when you feed one of them, he goes out and tells all his buddies.
Guys, guess what?
Come over here, you can get a handout.
Sometimes we have 20, 30.
Yeah, there have been dogs hanging around here that we just don't recognize. They just come in. These are toys that belong to my dog. He's really fond of this one. Sometimes I tie them together and smack him in the head with it.
Well, I don't like the fact that my rent is quadrupled.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think they should tear down this house because it's really cool.
It's affecting me, but it's not affecting me. I'm kind of glad. I may stand on the side of the road and cheer when they tear the house down.
I really have the urge to go through this place and just smash everything apart. It would make me feel a lot better about things. But I'm a law-abider, so we can destroy things. Punk rock, man.
Well, I spend a lot of time writing in general about the waste and destruction of this house and the fact that we should preserve and renovate traditional buildings.
It doesn't come as much of a surprise to see that this house is being gotten rid of. It's still gonna be kind of sad.
Well, if you basically really want to know how I feel about it, it really pisses me off. This is my home, and I've always wanted a house like this, and now it's being taken away from me for stupid reasons. And I feel like a spoiled, stubborn child, but maybe I am.
Eventually, everyone moved out. I caught up with Mary Hall and her husband Tony a few days afterwards, and they refused an interview. However, Tony Hall proceeded to show me one of the apartments and explained to me, using expletives for nouns, verbs, adjectives, and pronouns, how he couldn't understand why people wouldn't keep clean and respect such a fine house to live in.
There's a thing about this house. There's a thing that I've learned, one good thing that I've learned by living in this house, and that is that there's a limit to the level of filth in which I can live comfortably. And this house, it goes far below that limit. So don't blame it on me if you are really puking about how gross this house is, because you just can't clean it up enough. The filth always comes back. I'm not bothering to clean my room up or get any of this stuff sorted out until I put it in boxes to move, because there's no sense. As I was saying about cleaning things up just a little while ago, I'm not bothering. The process of entropy is happening everywhere in the house. This light bulb here used to be taped to the ceiling, but I'm not bothered with it anymore.
Don't worry, we'll get that when we move.
Yeah.
But even though the house was falling apart, the company was good.
I get along with everybody pretty well. Elizabeth and I have been dating pretty strongly for a little over a year and a half, and Peter and Paul are good friends, and I like Jack. I have had pretty good conversations with everybody else, with Jamie and Charity, and I like them all. They're all pretty good friends. And even Eddie and April, whom I don't really hang out with, are generally friendly, and so we all get along pretty well. As I said, I'm kind of in a time of transformation myself, and I mean, I just never know what's going to happen. It seems like I could just ascend at any moment and turn into some higher form of being. Hey man, look at that! Now this is low class, man.